In summertime, in summertime, in summertime, summertime. Every day I fall in love with you, girl.
Let's hear it, baby. Woo! Thanksgiving approaches, feeling the love. Okay, love it.
Be the love.
Be the love. Well, thank you everyone, and thank you everyone live streaming and on ACM Gather, and maybe you're going to join us on YouTube a little bit later on. And it's possible, I did talk to my mom this morning, and she may be checking it out.
Oh wow!
Yeah, she has a new computer, so she's going to try to do it at some point. So if you check this out, hi mom!
Yeah, Mom!
We love you! All right. So the title of my talk today is The Kindness of God. But before I get in that, I do want to make a little sidebar. I want to show you something. This is, anyone know what this is?
A notebook.
It's a teacher's grade book. Okay, teacher's grade book. Now this, many of you may consider this, I know Reverend Roxy knows what this is, but many of you may realize that, nowadays most teachers use they use computer programs for their grades.
Yep.
However, I'm a traditionalist and I use a grade book still. So I want to say that I know that Reverend Tony and Reverend Vincent have transferred to their iPads and other electronic devices. However, I choose to still use my note cards because I'm a traditionalist. Maybe one day I'll be open to spirit changes. Just want to let you know that. Okay, so the kindness of God. First of all, let's think about this. In today's reading, Steve read, the lesson is clearly telling us that one aspect of God is kindness, reflected through our relationships, through how we approach creation and all beings. So I decided to look up kindness in the dictionary, and this is what it says. Kindness is the act of being considerate, compassionate, and empathetic towards other people and living beings. In today's lesson, Course in Miracles' title of the lesson, or today's reading, it says, love created it like itself. You can easily substitute in that reading, kindness created it like itself. Kindness is a quality of God. It's a quality of love. So it's just another manifestation, or it's another manifestation of love and of God and how we think about it in this particular world. Now, why a talk on kindness? I always think about these things. Well, the first thing is, it was kind of funny. Last week or a couple weeks ago, up on my Facebook feed, there popped this notification, little article, and said that there's actually a World Kindness Day. It's November 13th of every year now. There is World Kindness Day. Now, I have a little connection to this because when my first teaching stint I did at Holy Cross High School in the 90s, a group of kids came to me and they wanted to start this group, and they called it the Random Acts of Kindness, because at that time, that's when that idea was coming around. So we used to do things around that. And I thought it was always a very sweet thing, and we had that kind of, so we had that idea, and so we would do different events throughout the school to try to, demonstrate that, to have, where people would get messages or candygrams or different things like that. Or we would do things as service to the school. And it was a really beautiful thing to just emphasize kindness, because we hear so many other things that are emphasized from time to time, right? And I also had this intuitive thought as well about this World Kindness Day. And I just thought, this has come about in part because of A Course in Miracles. You know, the Course in Miracles coming into the world as a text, and those of us who study the Course in Miracles bringing that. And even though, you know, if you compare A Course in Miracles, the students and the textbooks out there to the world religions, you know, we don't quite have as many followers. I kind of looked this up, and I think Christians are at about 1.2 billion. Hindus are at 1.1 billion, and there are at least 1 billion followers of Islam. And Buddhism comes up behind at 400 million. Okay? So the last I heard about A Course in Miracles, I mean, I don't know how we quantify the number of students, but I heard that there were about 1 million of the texts of Course in Miracles texts sold. So clearly we've got a little bit of way to go to catch up with our brethren in the other religions. But remember what A Course in Miracles says, is that all minds are connected. So one of us experiencing miracles and the ideas of A Course in Miracles has definitely affected the collective mind. And I really believe that the Course in Miracles has really influenced this. The other thing that I have to say that's really deeply, deeply, deeply true about practicing kindness is appearances do not always reveal people's individual experience. It seems that a lot of people are happy, that a lot of people may go through the world in peace and be enjoying themselves. But we have to remember that 99.9% of the planet at some point experiences suffering. At some point has profound psychic wounds. You cannot believe that you separated from your source, from love or the Creator, and not have that expressed in some form in your life. So we are called as Course in Miracles students to keep that in mind. And a wonderful, wonderful remedy to that is that when we encounter folks who are clearly troubled, and maybe those folks are even giving us the hard time, kindness, kindness, kindness. It is so true. It's not even a random act of kindness, but our brothers and sisters, our siblings, they need constant kindness, especially when they are having hard times. Now, what's the benefits of kindness? This is really amazing. So, Reverend Tony in our talks, by example, has shown us to sometimes do some research. So here's a couple of research stories, okay? So the University of Oxford, which as many of you know is like the Harvard and Yale of England, examined 21 studies on the effect of kindness. And it found that if we're kind, it actually makes us happier. So we have a benefit. It's just not the other person, it's we have a benefit. And get this, for those of us who are supervisors of other people, happy people are 12% more productive than unhappy people. So if we at all lead other folks or involved with other folks, they'll actually be they'll actually be more productive if they are happier. And so kindness is a big, big part of this. Researchers also did this study of college students in both Asia and Europe. And they did they basically had these students pick amongst 8 qualities that the students were looking for in a long-term partner. And what they, so it was physical appearance, education, financial success, or the possibility of financial success. The number one quality that these college students identified is they wanted their partner to be kind. Right? To be kind. Please be kind. Now, the wonderful lesson that Reverend Steve read for us today says this. Just listen to this aspects of God. Holiness created me holy. Kindness created me kind. The extended version of that prayer, helpfulness created me helpful. Perfection created me perfect. I don't know if we all realize this, but what the Course in Miracles is really telling us, and it's hard for us to see because of the dualism, the separation in this world where we see each other different. We are God. There's no difference between us and God. Even if right now, our reality, we can't sense that or experience that, it is truth. The only thing different between God and us is that God had the first thought and then extended it to us. So there's no other reality for us. And we're just working our way back. Be kind and gentle with all of us. I think this lesson is also teaching us or reminding us, why do we have to have these kind of reminders, right? Think to yourself, what would you say is a quality of God? You know, like that's part of the lesson too. Like what comes to mind? And for me, what comes to mind is like this idea of innocence created me innocent. Innocence. And how oftentimes do we experience the world? You know, we experience it sometimes guilty, right? We feel guilty because we didn't do this or we did that and we said this and we said that. It all doesn't matter because in reality it didn't happen. And we have to keep in mind as well that the reason we have this image of God is because that's what we decided to agree with. So if we agree with judgment, it's because we sided with judgment. If we agree with guilt, because we sided with guilt, right? We all know this. If we agree with condemnation, if we agree with separation, if we agree with anxiety and fear and depression, it's because we chose that. And what's the great thing about choice? Choose again. Yes, choose again. We can choose again. So really, what the Course is telling us today about this is that God and us are the things we want to substitute in our lives are all those other things. Kindness, innocence, helpfulness, perfection, honesty, forgiveness, holiness. All those things. You put in your adjective that you think makes for you, works for you. Now I wanted to share a story. As I was doing this talk, a story about an experience I had as a teacher, which is pretty kind of intense, but because it involved not only a student, but also a parent of a student that happened to me at one point in my career. And what happened was I had this student who was just really having a hard time. And something had happened in the educational system that year that really screwed, excuse my language, but really screwed the kid over. And he was in my class and he was mad at the world, because of it. Besides his own, he also had a mental health disability as well. So he was really challenged by this. And so his response was to be defiant, extremely so. Sometimes avoidant, he'd just come into class and would sleep. And sometimes hostile, and it was a real challenge. But I was guided to be kind but firm with this student. Kind and firm. And so, we, those of us in special education often work with students that have, challenges, and we have behavioral systems responses to them. And please don't think it's mechanical, but it is necessary. We have to teach natural consequences. So the students get a natural consequence, and as the behavior escalates, the response may escalate, but it's done to support them so that they can, recover and come back into the class. But this student was having a real time. It was happening like over a month, and we were doing the best we could. Well, the situation got to its peak, and after about 3 weeks, a month of this behavior, the student's parent came in. And the student's parent began interrupting us in the hallway as we were trying to work with the student. They had gotten there early for a meeting. And I had to ask them to step away, and the student got upset and came at me and postured, which means they, gave the threat of violence. But kind of in my space, and I stepped back and I said, okay, it's not good to do that, but I'm just going to walk away, because at this point, it wasn't productive. And so eventually what happens is we go into the meeting. So we go into the meeting with this parent, and this parent's not happy with me either. And this parent is giving me a hard time about, why aren't you just, come on, dude. Like, it was a very, plain-spoken parent. And dude, why don't you just give my student a break? Give my child a break. We went back and forth, and I was really trying to be firm. I wasn't attacking. I learned this all from the Course of Miracles. But I was just responding. And then finally, and while this is all happening, the students outside kicking the door at times and having, all these kinds of behaviors. And I see Reverend Roxy laughing because I know she knows. and having all this go on, but I'm just calm because I know it's part of the process, right? This is just part of the process. And finally I said to the mom, I expressed my concern. I said, you know what I'm concerned about? I said, yeah, if your student is acting out here and being hostile and doing whatever, he's going to be okay. But if he learns that I'm going to give in to him, and it was, at this point it was over a grade, not just behavior. If he learns that he can get away with this kind of behavior and doesn't have a natural consequence, he's going to think he can do that when he leaves here, or even when he's outside of here. And when he goes into the public square, into a park, into a job, in a situation on BART, and somebody does something, or tell this particular student, if you told them something they didn't like, they would get really upset. And they do that, then that's going to put your son in harm's way. Either somebody's going to harm him, or he may harm them, and then what happens when we become violent, right, to other people? We know what happens to folks in our society. They go to jail. And at that moment, she aligned. She got it, And from that point, we still had a little tough discussion, but we got to the point where we were agreeing, and someone outside on my staff had also calmed the student down. So the student comes into the meeting finally. The student says, I'm sorry for the way I behaved, sits down, explains what was going on for them, this fear that they were going to fail, this fear that they were going to do all this, all these things came out. And I said to them, okay. I said, well, thank you. I said, I think you're an amazing student. But one of the things the student had been doing that I didn't share earlier was that they had been doing work, but keeping it, not giving it to me. So I was forced, it was like the last day of the grading period, and I was being forced to give them a failing grade. And I was like, just give me the work. And that was it, right? That was the healing, right? Just give me the work. You've done it, take credit. But, we know that people that are in distress sometimes hurt themselves. So, from the Course in Miracles, right, the kid was able to give me the work. I was able to grade the work. I was able to give him a passing grade. I didn't want to fail this kid. I didn't want to collude with his, ego and prove to him that he was a piece of poo-poo, right. That's kind of what they're looking at for. And so, that's kind of what transpired in that situation. And so, what I'm struck with is that, Course in Miracles is this principle, I feel like, this principle-based study. And, kindness and love and holiness show up in many different forms. And like in that one experience, I made many mistakes, but in that one experience, I think I truly was being kind to the student. Because if I had given in and colluded with the ego in this case, again, What lesson is the student teaching? So to his future self, right, I was being kind. And we were, and essentially, and this was a team effort, I had other staff helping me as well, and there was a therapist in the room who was mediating, so I wanted to make sure it was a team effort, which is, kind of like what the Course in Miracles says too, right? Healing doesn't take place independently. And if we really want to look at it, think about what the Course in Miracles says as well, right? The Course in Miracles really talks about how, that student's defiance and that student's hostility is all of our hostility. He's showing me parts of my mind. So if I can respond to him, or we can respond to our brothers and sisters who are in distress with kindness, we're healing ourselves, and we're healing our minds, and we're healing the world in the process. And that is why we're here. In the pamphlet, The Song of Prayer, the pamphlet actually ends with this quote, with a little abbreviations. So, now return your holy voice to me. The song of prayer is silent without you. The universe is waiting for your release because it is its own. Be kind to it and to yourself, and then be kind to me. Do not abandon love. Remember this. Whenever you may think about the world, your Father needs you and will call to you until you come to Him in peace at last. Be kind to yourself, be kind to everyone, and be kind to God. Yeah. Okay, folks.
Oh yeah, you can't stop me. I'm coming back, baby. Train keeps rolling on down the line. Crowds are telling me I'm doing fine.